Hi, welcome back to 101 Things. This time I'm going to show you how I designed a CW decoder for the Raspberry Pi Pico. There are a lot of Morse code decoders for microcontrollers in the wild, so in this project I'd like to try some more advanced decoding techniques. Let's see if we can push the limits of what's possible with the Raspberry Pi Pico and see how good of a decoder we can make. Decoding Morse code is actually really hard. A well-trained human operator will do a much better job most of the time. Learning Morse code has a really steep learning curve, and it's a skill I don't have. So building a Morse code decoder is a really useful but challenging project. I'll start by talking about the hardware, then we can look at the software and some of the algorithms I've developed. After that, we'll do a short demo and see how well this works. Like most of my projects, I'm using the Raspberry Pi Pico to do the processing, because it's cheap and easy to get hold of. This project will work equally well on the Pico 1 or the Pico 2. We don't need any of the Wi-Fi features, but if you've got a Pico W or a Pico 2W, they'll work just fine too. I'm pairing the Pi Pico with a cheap ILI 9341 TFT display. Like the SSTV decoder, I'm using 4 buttons to drive a menu-driven interface. I'm using the inbuilt ADC to capture audio from a single sideband receiver. The receiver should be set to upper sideband mode. This gives us the bandwidth to capture several Morse code channels at once. We just need a couple of resistors and a DC blocking capacitor to interface to the receiver. On the transmit side, I'm using a PWM-based audio DAC. This is followed by a very simple low-pass filter and a DC blocking capacitor. I use a very fast PWM rate, and I keep the bandwidth very low so that we can remove most of the ripple. All the software for this decoder is written in pure C++. I've written a demo application using Arduino Pico. The Arduino Pico core by Earl Filhauer is about the quickest and easiest way to get a development environment for the Raspberry Pi Pico set up. It only takes a few minutes to install and get up and running with some example designs. Now let's take a look at how the decoder works. I'm oversampling the audio signal at 15 kHz. This gives me more opportunity to filter out aliases. In the resampler block, I reduce the sample rate to 7.5 kHz. This is more than enough to sample the output of a single sideband receiver. I then pass the signal through an FFT. I'm using a 32-point FFT, so each bin is about 100 Hz wide. This is equivalent to having 32 very narrow filters, all set to slightly different frequencies. I then calculate the magnitude in each bin. The narrow filters allow me to average lots of samples together, which gives me the best chance of achieving a good signal-to-noise ratio. The first step in a Morse code decoder is to work out whether the signal's on or off. In the real world, there's lots of background noise, and the amplitude of the signal can change due to fading. We need a reliable way to work out when the signal's present and when it's just noise. The noise estimator uses a smoothing filter and a noise gate. The smoothing filter only gets updated when the signal isn't present. Once we've estimated the noise floor, we can work out the threshold. I set the threshold about 12 dBs above the noise. Whenever the magnitude of the signal is higher than the threshold, we've got a dot or a dash. I've also added some hysteresis to prevent chatter. When the signal's on, I reduce the threshold so it has to fall a little bit lower before I turn it off again. The signal's then divided into channels. I'm using 6 channels, each of them's 5 bins wide. I then measure the length of each mark and space, and then send those durations to the classifier. In the real world, Morse code signals have different speeds and timings, and I want my decoder to be able to adapt to this. This is where the classifier comes in. It's a method I can use to measure the length of dots and dashes before I start decoding the signal. I tried a few different methods to classify the dots and dashes, but I found a histogram method was the simplest and most reliable. If you plot the durations in a histogram, you can see 2 peaks. The first peak is the dots, and the second peak is the dashes. The algorithm finds the position of the 2 peaks, and then finds the lowest point in the valley between them. Anything higher than this valley is considered to be a dash, and anything lower than the valley is considered to be a dot. I can then use the histogram data to work out the mean and the standard deviation of dots and dashes. You need about 100 dots or dashes to make a reliable measurement of the timing. Once you've made the initial measurement, you can make the decoder more responsive by updating the histogram more frequently. I do updates about every 20 dots or dashes. The same process works for measuring the gaps between the dots and dashes as well. This time there are 3 different lengths. There's symbol gaps, the gaps between letters, and the gaps between words. We have to treat the gaps between words as a special case. They don't happen very often, so we only get a very small sample size. They also don't really follow a Gaussian distribution. If the gap between two words gets longer, it only makes it more likely that it's a word gap. I found that it was more reliable to just make the word gap 7 times the length of the gap between symbols. Now let's look at the decoder. Rather than using a simple threshold, I'm using Bayesian techniques to decode the symbols. I know the mean and the standard deviation of the dot and the dash distribution. So each time I receive a new symbol, I can use its duration to work out the probability that it's a dot or the probability that it's a dash. I don't make the decision straight away though. I just store the probability of each option. When I see a gap between two symbols, I expand the two options. There's 3 possibilities. It could be a symbol gap, a letter gap, or a word gap. If the duration of the gap is longer than the word mean, I just assign a high probability that it's a word gap. I now have 6 possible decodes and know the probability of each one. We can continue the process for each mark and space. Each time a new mark and space arrives, the number of possibilities multiplies by 6. This growth is exponential. We very quickly run out of CPU and memory to be able to store all the possibilities. To make things more manageable, we prune the number of possibilities after each mark and space down to around 10. Keeping many possibilities alive makes the decoder more robust. If we don't commit too soon, we can recover from early errors. We might get more evidence later on that favours a different hypothesis. We can also use our prior knowledge about Morse code and the English language to improve our decoder accuracy. We can start by pruning improbable sequences of dots and dashes. If we get an invalid sequence of 5 or more dots and dashes, we can reject this immediately. We could explore one of the other options instead. It's much more likely it was 2 or more letters. We can also use our knowledge of the English language. If one of the decode options ends in a word, or could plausibly turn into a word later, it's much more likely that this is the right answer. We assign a language bonus to any decode that ends in a word that's in our dictionary. The Pi Pico has a megabyte of flash, which is plenty of space to store a dictionary of the 10,000 most popular words. This dictionary includes about 90% of the words that occur in normal English. However, most Morse code communications aren't really normal English. They're full of abbreviations and technical jargon. I've customized my dictionary to include common Morse code and CW abbreviations and radio technical jargon. I've given these words a high ranking in a dictionary. Because the decoder explores multiple options concurrently, it places a higher computational load. We need to do very frequent checks to see if symbol sequences are valid Morse symbols or whether words are actually in the dictionary. Because we do these checks so frequently, we need efficient algorithms for dictionary checks and Morse code lookups. For Morse code lookups, I'm using a compact binary tree representation. This allows very fast lookups of dot and dash sequences. The rules are simple. We initialize the index to 0. If we see a dot, we add 1 to the index. If the symbol is a dash, we add span to the index. Span is a number that's initialized to 32. We divide it by 2 each time a new symbol is seen. So span follows the sequence 32, 16, 8, and so on. I'm using special characters to represent invalid sequences, or sequences which are a prefix of a valid sequence. We can use a binary search to do fast lookups of a word in a dictionary. The real dictionary contains 10,000 words, and these are all sorted in order. We perform a string comparison at the middle of the remaining search space. By performing a comparison, we can reduce the remaining search space by a factor of 2. This means we can search the whole dictionary of 10,000 words with only 14 comparisons. We perform an autocorrect as a final step after decoding. The purpose of the autocorrect is to correct small, obvious errors in the output. The autocorrect algorithm is quite conservative, and I've limited it to only single letter edits. We only want a light touch here. We want to reduce the risk that we'll change a word that was correct but unusual. Speed is really important here. We can't use a binary search directly, but doing a linear search of all 10,000 words is just too slow. I'm using a heuristic algorithm here. It's not a perfect algorithm that always gives the right result, but it does, usually, give a very good result, and more importantly, it does it very quickly. I start by performing a binary search of the misspelled word. Of course, the word won't be in the dictionary. I just need to know where the word would have been. I then do a linear scan of the 100 words around this point, 50 before and 50 after. Although the algorithm can't find every possible candidate, it's overwhelmingly likely that a candidate will be within this window. The weak point of this algorithm is when there's an error in the first letter of a word. If this happens, one of the correction candidates might be in a very distant part of the dictionary. To fill this gap, I do a little post-processing. There's only 25 possible first letter edits, so I just search them each individually using a binary search. When I include this extra step, the algorithm works much better. It's able to find more than 80% of candidates for misspelled words. Compared to checking every word in a dictionary, it gives about 100 times speed improvement. With these optimizations, the CW decoder works very fast. It's using about 5% of the available CPU to decode Morse code. We can actually decode Morse code across multiple channels in a fraction of the time it takes to render the waterfall. Okay, let's see how the decoder performs. Here's how it works with some good quality Morse code. In this case, the signal to noise ratio is very good and the timing is also very consistent. This is a recording of some real Morse code recorded off air. It's still able to give good copy, and this time the decoder is working live off air. Although the focus of this project is on the decoder, I've also added a transmit capability too. You can edit the transmit text directly, or you can select from a bank of memories with pre-written messages. Okay, so we've completed the build of the CW decoder. We've explored some sophisticated algorithms, and we've looked at how we can improve the efficiency of the software so it runs fast on low-cost hardware. If you want to have a go at building this yourself, why not check out the technical documentation? I've got everything you need to complete the build, including the software, the circuit diagram, the parts list, and even a 3D printed enclosure. I'm quite pleased with the way this project turned out. It isn't as good as a trained operator, but we can get a good copy on real Morse code. I also really like the ticker tape style waterfall. I think it really helps to visualize the signal as it's received. When I get a chance to do some more work on this project, there's a few more things I'd like to explore. I'd like to experiment with using the touchscreen display to enter text more efficiently. I'd also like to see what other possibilities we can achieve with this same hardware platform. I'd like to look at implementing some digital modes and maybe combining these with the SSTV decoder and the Morse Code Decoder to give a more comprehensive platform. If you've liked this video and you'd like to see more, why not subscribe? I've got plenty more ideas in the pipeline. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.